Israel's Defense Minister Yoav Gallant met with General Charles Q. Brown, who is our nation's highest-ranking military officer and the principal military advisor to the president. And during the meeting, Gallant made the statement. He said Iran's aggression has reached an all-time high. Folks, that's alarming. And all of this comes as the chief of staff of the Iranian armed forces reportedly confirmed yesterday that revenge against the Israeli entity is inevitable, and that what we all witnessed yesterday is only part of the revenge that's yet to come. So is the U.S. doing everything that it can do to support Israel? Or might we in some capacity be bolstering Israel's enemies, as some are certainly reporting and suggesting? Well, joining me now to discuss this is U.S. Senator Pete Ricketts of Nebraska. He serves on the Senate Committee on Foreign Relations. Senator Ricketts, welcome back to Washington Watch. It's always an honor to have you.
Thank you, Congressman. I appreciate you having me on.
Well, our privilege indeed. So, look, before we get in the reports that we're seeing on how U.S. tax dollars may be supporting Hezbollah, let's start. I'd like to get your reaction on what's happening just the last few days in Israel, including the hostage rescue just yesterday.
Well, the IDF is demonstrating what a great elite force it is by being able to rescue these hostages. And we should continue to support them and make sure they've got the materials they need to be able to do that. And sadly, this administration, this Biden-Harris administration, has been a poor friend to Israel, slowing up delivery of weapons, calling on them to be the one to not escalate, like somehow Israel is the obstacle of peace here rather than Iran, who is funding all these terrorists. What we need to do is a better job of supporting our ally because they know what they're doing. This rescue demonstrates they know what they're doing. And we got to send a strong message to the rest of the world that terrorism is not going to be tolerated.
So that sets up, I really like to get your overall assessment of all these ceasefire talks that are taking place, given what you just said with the slow walking support that our current administration has shown to Israel. What's your assessment of the ceasefire talks?
To me, Netanyahu's agreed to a framework that he's probably giving up a lot more than he wanted to. And it just shows how the Biden administration is not supporting him when the president supposedly comes back, according to a report by Axios, that he asked him to give up even more. You know, we ought to remember, who are the bad guys here? Well, it's Iran. They're the theocracy. They're the ones that's anti-democratic. They're the ones that's funding these terrorists. And so what we really need to do is be sending a strong message to Iran that we're not going to appease them, that we're going to level sanctions on them, we're going to enforce those sanctions, and that we're going to support our friend Israel. That's actually going to get more progress toward peace when Iran knows that they have no place to go. Instead, in July, I think I read a report that the Biden administration freed up another $10 billion of oil money for Iran. That's just allowing them to continue to fund this. It's exactly the wrong thing to do. We need to stop this appeasement first policy by the Biden administration and to support Israel and make sure that everybody knows Hamas is a terrorist organization. They started this war. Frankly, what they should do is Hamas should just surrender. They started this. They should just surrender.
Absolutely. Look, I couldn't agree with you more. And even the report you referenced is part of the reporting, the accusations that's going on that our tax dollars are actually, at the end of the day, funding our enemies. So let's talk about that. What about our tax dollars? Maybe inadvertently, but somehow or other supporting Hezbollah, and a lot of it going through aid to Lebanon and the United Nations. But what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so let's start with what we know for sure, which is our tax dollars have been going to UNRWA, the United Nations Work and Relief Agency for Palestine in the Middle East. And we know that they have been supporting terrorists and Hamas, right? UNRWA schools preach hatred, martyrdom, anti-Semitism, killing Jews, all that. And they've been used to stage attacks, store weapons. So we know that our tax dollars, because of the Biden-Harris administration, have gone to a terrorist organization or supported a terrorist organization at the very least called Hamas. We know that 12 UNRWA employees participated either directly or indirectly in the October 7th atrocity. Now we're getting reports that our money through the United Nations interim force in Lebanon and the Lebanese armed forces, the billions of dollars we've given us 2006, may be going to Hezbollah. And so given our experience with Hamas and what happened with UNRWA, this is totally plausible. We need to investigate it and find out. But I got to tell you, I've talked to Israeli Defense Force soldiers who have been on the front line of Lebanon, and they tell me this like UNIFIL bases, they're all overrun with Hezbollah. There's no United Nations people there. There's no Lebanese army there on that border with Israel. It's all Hezbollah. And so if somebody's saying that our tax dollars are getting funneled through those two organizations, UNIFIL and the LAF, to Hezbollah, it's very believable. And again, I've had soldiers on the ground tell me they think that really what we're seeing there is we've certainly seen no effort to disarm Hezbollah or create a buffer zone like they're supposed to. And what we're seeing is that their bases are actually being used by Hezbollah. At least that's what these soldiers claim.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've heard the same thing as well. Listen, on a related note, we simply are out of time now. I'm going to have to get you back and talk more specifically about this a little bit later. But you and Senator Tim Scott have a bill to stop support for Hamas Act. You know, we hear a lot about our need, as we've been talking about, the need to support Israel. But we also have to make sure we are not supporting Israel. And I just want to thank you and Senator Scott for leading the charge on that. We'll have to get you back to talk about that specifically.
Yeah, we need to pass the Stop Support of Hamas Act to stop the funding going to Hamas and then stop any funding going to Hezbollah as well.